This is Tech Addicts. This week we discuss Nokia's performance at IFA, the Google Pixel Watch price, the Samsung Galaxy Tab Active 4 Pro, Lenovo's T1 glasses, the GPD Win 4, and laser tag. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. I am Gareth, your handsome host for the next, I don't know, however long the show lasts. It's gone to pieces already. Sorry, Ted. Ted is here as well. How are you, Ted?
Hello, I'm all right, thank you, and ticking along nicely. And the usual weather report from here is that it's kind of sunny-ish, and it's actually quite nice. The weather is now kind of broken a bit, I think, and so we won't have all the noise of trains going by with open windows. So it will help podcasting, no doubt at all. I hear there's some storms brewing though in Northern Ireland, isn't there?
Well, apparently we have a yellow alert for stormy weather yesterday and today. I have not noticed any of it. I'm currently looking out the window. It is very sunny.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
so much for forecasters.
18 degrees out there. So if anything, it's a nice typical summer's day of years gone by.
Bizarre that is, isn't it? And I gave the Met Office a gold star recently on Whatever Works podcast for being so good with their forecasting.
Well, you never know. The centre of Northern Ireland is very different to the outskirts of Northern Ireland, and I can never quite work out what way to dress whenever I'm going to work, because I have to drive into the middle of the country, where it could be snowing, could be gales, could be a tornado in there. I don't know. Whereas I'll walk out here, and the neighbours will be in their grass skirts and walking about, just being having a luau in their garden. It's too difficult to work out. You never know what's going to happen. But my little area is it's protected, and it's quite nice here. It's like a Bahamian island where I am.
Right. Okay then. Well, if the sun stays out too long here, I'll have to open some windows. But at the moment, fingers crossed. Hey, guess what? My Amazon 5-month payments has come back. I was looking through for bargains to put on the show last night, and I suddenly saw, look, 5-month payments, they're back.
Well, hey, have you
Why?
paid any off recently, or?
No, I never had any. I didn't, because I wasn't allowed to have them for months and months on end, as we've reported on this show regularly. You got them as they ran out for me. What would be interesting to see now is if now yours disappear. So only Northern Ireland or Wales are allowed to have them at any one time.
Well, I have noticed that I haven't been getting them as much in the electronical goods area, but I have seen it on. There was something I was looking to buy quite recently. I think it was actually a jumper or a jacket, or maybe it was a pair of shoes. That's what it was. A nice big pair of hiking boots that I was eyeing up, and I was given the opportunity to purchase that monthly over, I think it was 3 or 5 months, at 30 quid a pop or something like that. So, I agree with your analogy that it could be depending on what shop you happen to be in at the time, or what particular area. So you can have one going on in household, one going on in fashion, and one going in electronics.
Yeah. How many have you got going at the moment?
Just the one for my Lenovo tablet.
Right. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how long it lasts for me. The trouble is, it makes it so tempting to spend money then, which is the whole idea, I suppose. That's their plan, the devious plan.
Yeah.
So anyway, this week I've been playing with the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3. Ooh. I've never had a folding screen phone before. I've got the Duo here, the Microsoft Surface Duo, but that's different because it's 2 screens and there's no attempt to fold the actual screen. And it's been really interesting. So much so, I bought the thing off of the person selling it, scrabbled around to kind of raise the funds to do so, and we spoke at length about it last night on Phone Show Chat podcast. So do tune into that. I'll put a link in the show notes to that. Very interesting though. That and the you can see the line across the middle, but you kind of get used to it. The only thing is when you take it outside into daylight, it becomes very very obvious. But inside in the house, indoors. You kind of if the screen is very white, you see it more, and your finger, when your finger rolls over it, you do feel it. But I guess most of the navigation you're doing is on the bottom half of the screen anyway, holding the phone in one hand. I don't know. I've just been pleasantly surprised. I thought I would kind of hate it. But it's actually very nice, and apart from that, it's a well specified Samsung flagship phone, effectively, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a review on it and watch this space.
That's interesting. I'll have to tune into the phone show last night and see what it's all about. Does sound like a fun phone.
Have you ever touched a folding screen?
I have, yes. My daughter's boyfriend has the one that you have now.
Right.
It's rather nice. It is. I don't know that I would love it enough to be able to walk around with it. I do prefer. I was quite glad to get back to my Pixel 6, but
Yeah.
No, it was still a nice phone, and I look forward to seeing what they do with it in the future. I think we're still early days on these things, despite the fact it's actually the 4th generation that we're talking about now, which is
the Flip 4, and the Fold 4. I couldn't afford that. I had to have last year's. But actually, this one was bought new from Samsung Direct in March 22, so it's only 6 months old, effectively, which is pretty good. And it's got a 2-year guarantee. So yeah,
right,
all
okay.
good. But I should look forward to seeing how long the honeymoon period lasts.
Well, take it down to the beach today, hang around on the beach, have some fun, roll around in the sand, and then come back and tell us if it's still okay.
Yeah, it's actually rated for water protection, but not for dust. They're obviously not very confident about dust not getting under the screen, and they're not covering it for that.
Yeah, they don't want to get themselves into hot water. Yeah, okay. Ian Barton sent over, I think it was on the MeWe group, he put this out, and then I tweeted it out on, of all places, Twitter. A nice little, what do you call them? Computer display things.
Yeah.
It's a 15.6 inch full HD HDR FreeSync 0 frame USB Type-C computer display, which runs off Type-C, and you hook it up to your laptop or your PC or your phone or your Mac or your Xbox or your PlayStation 4, and you have a portable screen with you that you can use, obviously, on the go, or just plug it into the side of your computer if you just need a second screen that has options then, quite nice options that you can take with you if you're ever going away or something. It's a really cool idea, and they have been quite expensive to get in the past, but he noted on Amazon that one of them had been dropped in price from £300, and it's currently sitting at £190 today, or £189.99 for those of you that like to correct me on a penny, which is 37% off. Ted, what do you make of these? Would you have one?
I've got one.
Oh.
Not this particular make, but I've had one of these for some time, and my biggest complaint about it really is that it's not very bright. The panel is just, it's dull, and every time I don't know what Ian's is like, this Coco Par, but my one, whenever you go and fire it up, it forgets to put it on the brightness setting you left it on last time you use it. So every time you've got to fiddle about with the menus to turn the brightness right up to 100% to try and get the most out of it. Now, I don't know. Ian Barton's one might be better, and mine's obviously older because I've had it for a couple of years now. But yeah, he's quite right. It's a good utility screen if you've got the use for it. I guess the argument is, if you're going to carry something around that big with you, might you not as well just take a Chromebook, really? Or yeah, I mean, these niche devices have got uses for if you've got something that it's going to fit into. But yeah.
But then this isn't reliant on one particular operating system, at least.
No.
The possibilities are endless. Well, they don't say endless, but they do advertise that you could pick up your PlayStation 5 and take it with you if you've got a small trolley, or your PC, or a TV stick, or a mini PC, or a Nintendo Switch. Yeah,
I mean, I get all that, and you're quite right. It's just that, with everything going online these days, you can do gaming on a Chromebook, can't you, for example? Anyway, yes, I've got one of these, and it sits in a cupboard, and I never use it. It was great to play with and review initially, but I don't use it, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that is one point, because it's battery powered. The brightness always tends to fall unless you want to hammer the battery. So Ian has typed up a little bit of a review there where he says that the display is 1080p, 15.6 inches, and a 16:9 aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Brightness is good for indoor usage, although not quite as good as the Chromebook. Okay, so...
Yeah, I don't know. Mine hasn't got a battery in it. I know that some of the Zen Screen, Asus Zen Screen ones, they have got batteries built in. Ian doesn't say if this one has or not, but mine has not. So every time you've got to use it, you've got to then cable it up as well. So you've got about 3 cables coming out of it. It's all right faff, to be honest. But yeah, if you've got a use, then great, and good for Ian. He's obviously found that use.
Yeah. No, I think it's good that these things exist, because there always is someone who needs it. My wife, as she started her new job where she's got a laptop now, and she insisted on having a second screen because it just makes life easier. But then she went and had a working lunch with some of her work colleagues, because they don't work in an office anymore. And she went off and they sat in this cafe, and she had to work on her laptop, and she really missed the second screen. And whenever I mentioned this, because Ian had put the deal in MeWe, her ears pricked up, and she was like, "Oh, really? And you can take it with you?" It's like, yes, but then you have to put it on the table and annoy everybody else in the whole place that you happen to be in, because you're taking up the entire table.
And carry loads of cables.
Yes.
And make sure it's got a battery in, or you have to power it. And there's also the Next dock as well. We were talking about that on PSC this week. The Next dock does a very similar thing. You got one there as well, haven't you?
No, I got rid of mine.
Oh, okay. But you can essentially plug anything HDMI into a Next dock device, and you've got a keyboard and a trackpad then as well. Oh, as I say, the niche devices for different people work differently. So, yeah, good for whoever needs it for what.
Exactly. It's a nice toy if you need it, but like with the Next dock, I didn't need it, and it sat there gathering dust, and I just decided I could use that space on my desk for better things. Right, okay. AJ Santos has written into the With Me We group, suggesting that, or with this article from What Hi-Fi, not he suggesting, but the article suggests that Blu-ray could be at death's door because of an innovative new 1 terabyte optical disc that could hold the future to physical media. Now, there's an awful lot of people who chime in on the physical media side of things, and how it's it's on its last legs and that sort of thing. To be entirely honest, I don't think. Well, everybody has their own opinion. My opinion is that it is still very strong. If you have a look at some of the bigger sets that are coming out for, say, Blu-ray and 4K, they are getting more pricey, but they are still very, very strong. And in these last few months, I think there's been more titles released that I want than ever before in the history of physical media. They are just so desirable. They're really, really nice looking, gorgeous collections, and you should maybe go and have a look at them, because it is the sort of thing that could woo people back in, and they're released in limited amounts, so they sell out quite quickly and stuff. But I've seen 2 different accounts of what this article covers. And it's based on an Ohio-based startup called Folio Photronics, who have announced new innovations that they've made in data storage, and they want to put together these affordable optical discs that can store up to 1 terabyte per disc. Now, in this particular article, I believe they refer to it as a disc, but then there's another article as well that refers to them as cartridges. A bit like well, off the top of my mind, I think of Nintendo 64 straight away, or Super Nintendo. But I think they'll probably be a little bit different than that. Maybe more sort of a Game Boy type size, or Evercade size,
or a zip drive.
Or a zip drive, yeah. And I'm wondering if it maybe is that kind of mini disc type thing where the disc is inside it and they've got a plastic casing around it to protect it or something. Yeah, this whole innovation that they've made is going to make for a different approach going forward. Now, first off, I straight away think of box sets where you get multiple films across multiple discs, and it would be very attractive to the manufacturers to just have one disc and be able to make their packaging around that one disc rather than having to house a bunch of different discs. Like the box set of, say, Star Trek, the original series, is like a book with little plastic pages, and there's maybe 10 or 5 or whatever of those that you flip over, and there's a disc housed on each. So being able to have that just all on one disc or one cartridge in the center of that, a bit like a Nintendo Switch case, might be a bit more attractive to a manufacturer to bring down the costs of putting together physical media, because physical media is still expensive for them to churn out, and perhaps not all of them sell, and they're left with excess stock that they have to ship out through Poundland or somewhere like that on various titles. So I think it's very interesting going forward. I do remember actually a couple of years ago being at, I think I was at Mobile World Congress, and we were talking to a guy about, I can't even remember his name, but we were talking to him about Blu-ray storage devices. And during the Q&A session that we had, his phone rang, and he went, I absolutely have to take this. And he disappeared out of the room for 5 minutes and came back in again and sat down and went, I do apologise. That was James Cameron. He's very excited about some of the breakthroughs that we've made with the next level of, well, at this stage it would have been the 4K disc development. And he couldn't sort of cancel his call or anything. We're like, oh, that's all right. Let Jim get through there. But yeah, he was saying, yeah, because we've made a breakthrough where we can get up to 250 gigabytes onto a Blu-ray disc, and he's very interested in that for the next Avatar sequel or something. We're like, oh, right, okay, that's interesting. But, that's already been, we've hit that now, and we've got 4K discs that can do, theoretically, up to, 8K transfers and have up to 250 gigabytes on the disc. This then takes it even further, up to 1 terabyte, and they believe this might even be able to go up to 10 terabytes, depending on where they use it.
Well, the way I interpret that is that the cartridge will have 10 1 terabyte discs inside it. Is that not how you see that?
Oh, right, okay.
So
yes.
the cartridge holds 10 of these 1 terabyte discs, and they all kind of presumably work together, like the thing you used to put in your boot of your car to run CDs.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I wonder what size the cartridge then would be.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Right.
So in terms of storing data, forget about films and movies and stuff. If you're just using it to back up data, is that a practical solution? All computers now don't come with a optical drive, so you'd have to buy a separate one in order to do that. Or is this just about, distributing media for watching?
Well, it depends on how it gets written. If it's rewritable, then that's always a good bit more expensive and requires a different access point, essentially. Whereas like a DVD, which is a ROM, a read-only medium, you can't write to it. Or was it Worm as well was the other way that it could be called, write once, read many. I believe that this is from the point of it being a worm, where you can write once to this media, right, and then ship it out, and that people can use it that way. It's not like a NAS or something like that has a bunch of Blu-rays inside it that you can continually write to over and over again, like a tape streaming device or whatever, or a zip drive as springs to mind. Yeah.
So the benefit of a cartridge with 10 terabytes in it would be as you say, a set of films. You'd have to rewrite the whole way in which media was distributed yet again, wouldn't you, in order to make this happen, and then start selling new machines that could use it.
True, and getting companies to pick that up is going to be really difficult this time round. I think they need to carry on with what they have. If you have a look at the amount of companies that produce 4K players compared to the amount that produced Blu-ray and DVD players, it's seriously fallen the totals there. Whereas the likes of, say, Sony are keeping Blu-ray and 4K alive through their PlayStation 5, and I think that's the most popular method of playing 4K right now in people's living rooms. And it just takes the enthusiast to go out and get a dedicated 4K player to get because they do work better. They have better playback than the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 is kind of an entry level 4K player. Although I find it perfectly acceptable. I haven't gone that extra mile to buy myself a proper Blu-ray or 4K at the moment.
The other issue is that is this really that fantastic? 1 terabyte discs, they're kind of wowing about the amount of capacity on that. Whereas last week we were talking about the fact that 1 terabyte micro SD cards, the size of your fingernail, and you think to yourself, well, surely if you've got the space of a whole spinning discs, why haven't you got 200 terabytes on it?
Well, true, but the likes of an SD card it's not exactly safe and secure, or there's a chance that it can rupture, or it's more volatile, or whatever the word is, that it can be lost.
Oh no, hang on a minute. Sorry, I'm getting confused there. This is 1 terabyte, not 1 gigabyte. I'll get into trouble. We'll have letters.
Oh no, there's 1 terabyte micro SDs out there. We featured some last week.
No, 1 gigabyte. No, 1. Oh yeah, 1 tera. I'm getting very confused.
1 gigabyte was 20 years ago. We were all excited about that.
Yeah. Terabytes, gigabytes, bits and bytes. Keep it. We need Steve to interpret.
There was megabytes way back when, or there was kilobytes, but way back when. Then there was megabytes, then gigabytes, and petabytes are next. So when we start seeing those, I'll start getting excited.
So I go back to my original argument, which was, if you can get 1 terabyte onto a fingernail-sized micro SD, how come they not get many more times that on a DVD or a Blu-ray?
Well, it's being able to keep the information stored solidly so that it's not going to get lost to, I don't know, magnets and all those sorts of things that can actually cause problems. How many times have you had an SD card fail on you in your life?
Never.
Oh, right, okay. Several times for me, especially if you're constantly writing to it. And the ones I put in my security cameras, I'd say they're good for about a year, but then after that, they die.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah. Interesting. It's an interesting article, though. Thank you, AJ.
It is, yes. And it's exciting going forward. I'll stick with Blu-ray for as long as possible and 4K because I just love them. Love them. Anyway, moving into the hard line for the hardware. Ted, Nokia is in IFA and things are getting exciting. Or frustrating.
Yeah, there was loads of announcements from Nokia at IFA this week in Berlin, and I think the highlight for me was probably the X30 phone. There was also a G60 phone and a C31 phone going down in specifications. The C31 is quite low end, really. It's got a 720p screen and it's cheap as chips, and it's designed for a different kind of market. I think it's even, get this, got a micro USB for charging.
What?
So yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure about that one, but the X30 and the G60 are frustratingly specified in my view, because the G60 is the cheaper device, 250 quid or thereabouts, and the X30 is more expensive, like 400, 450 we think at this stage, although it's not formally announced. But the cheaper one has got things like 3.5mm out and micro SD card support, and side-mounted capacitive fingerprint scanner, which I still think is a benefit, a bigger battery, And yet on the other one you've got an AMOLED display, which is not present on the cheaper one with an LCD, as a smaller screen, a better screen, things like Victus glass on the front, same chipset as used on both of them, but no card slot, no 3.5mm. There's no stereo speakers anywhere here, incidentally, and an OIS camera. So once again, it seems that manufacturers are pitching those kind of features at the cheaper phones, and when they get to the 400, 500 mark, they think to themselves, oh well, these customers buying this don't need or want these things, and we'll move it forward on that basis. And I just think it's quite frustrating that if the X30 had some of the features of the other one, I think that would be a winner. But yeah, I don't know, what do you think?
I think it's just down to them wanting to sell the larger storages, because the difference between 128 gigabytes and 256 gigabytes is probably going to be about £100. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to sell a 128 gigabyte version of this with a micro SD card slot, because people can do that themselves, and they won't make that £100.
Right, yeah, I get that. And what about the 3.5mm?
Well, yeah, I suppose that's one thing that they can stick in that'll attract people, and those that would spend £250 on a mobile phone would benefit from a 3.5, whereas those that spend 500, 600 or even more on a phone are probably going to be a bit, cooler than that. They're too cool to have a wired headset.
Under display optical fingerprint scanner, which is crap.
Again, too cool.
We do know that the face unlock thingy works really well on Nokia's, from first-hand experience here. So that kind of makes up for it a bit. But you see, the LCD panel on the G60, the cheaper one, is a 120 Hz refresh rate. Not that I care about that, but the AMOLED is a 90 Hz. So it just seems like a strange mix of features to me, that that they've made a mid-ranger that with some slightly better specs could be more like a flagship. Don't know.
Actually, the G60 has an FM radio built into it as well, whereas the other one hasn't. They haven't specified it yet, because I was looking to see perhaps they couldn't confirm whether or not things were in there, so they've just left it as a no to be on the safe side, because there are some things like the FM radio actually says unspecified. Yeah,
okay. But if you look at the Nokia power user link that I put in the show notes as well, you get some more firm details in there. The other thing that was spoken about was all of these Nokia things were very much about eco-friendly, making them with the right materials and blah, 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 much as we were talking about last week about that Chromebook, and they're doing that. And a promise of 3 OS updates in 4 years of security updates, which is really good. Then you've got this update to the T20 tablet, which both of us have got in our houses, to a T21, and I really can't see the point of why they've done that. They've upgraded it with such minimal differences, apart from physicality. They've made it prettier, okay, but the changes are just so minimal. You think, why have they bothered to refresh this at all? I think that the bigger news this year with Nokia really on tablets is still that T10, and I think I would have ordered a T10 by now for my mum if they'd have done the 64 gig version and not this 32 gig one. So going forward, I think that's where it is, and it's a nice little tablet. And what I discovered this week, I didn't realise, is that the T10 has got telephony built into it, a bit like the HTC Flyer, was it? Right,
okay. It's a proper phablet.
It's a phone, yes. It's a phablet, absolutely, and you can use it as a telephone as well with a SIM card in it if you buy the 4G version. So I think that we're in the tablet space. The T20 and T21 will have an audience, I suppose, because they want a bigger screen. But I think the 8-inch T10 is much better option.
Yeah. I always liked when Asus did they did the two devices. They had the phone pad and then the pad phone. Or was it the tab phone or something like that? They had both sides of it. But they were both tablets. One was quite big, one was quite small, with telecommunications built into it, so you could actually make a call.
Yeah.
And it was missing. It was something that they just couldn't get right. And a few companies, I think Lenovo did as well. I think they called the Fab, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
And they made a couple of those, and then they just died off because no one bought them. But there is, I think there's got to be a market for them now, more so than back then. Now that people are happier with bigger screens in their pockets, getting the biggest screen in their pocket would be the way forward. As long if it's got an earpiece and
Yeah. If you look at some of these reviews of the T10 on YouTube, you can see that it's clearly designed to be used mainly in portrait mode. It's not like the T20, T21, which is designed to be sat up and watch Netflix on so much.
Yeah.
They're assuming people will just use it as a giant phone, I think, even down to the placement of the selfie camera and all the rest of it. So I think that the T10 is a really interesting device, really well priced, and as soon as they bring out a 64, I'll get one for my mother.
Why not? What about the T21? Is there any reason that people should rush out and buy one of those if they have a T20?
No, that's what I was saying. That I don't understand why they've.
There's got to be something in there.
Well, look at the. I put a comparison of the specs in the show notes. There's a link there, and there's nothing there. Okay, there's a 128 gigabyte of storage option, a slight tweak on the selfie camera, a slight tweak on the faster charging. There's stylus support. No stylus supplied, and I think that it's going to follow the protocol of the U. Whatever the letters are, I can't remember what it is now. It's going to follow those, so the stylus will work with that. But look down at that list. It's virtually the same.
Slightly better GPU, the Mali 6 or G57 instead of the G52.
But it's just all slate. I don't quite get why they bothered to do that. NFC. There's a difference. NFC is included, and it's not on the T20. Well, have you ever needed NFC on your T20? Going down Tesco to try and pay with something.
Actually, no. My son has a new set of headphones, and I tried to use NFC, and I was like, "Whereabouts is the pad on this that I can pair it to these headphones without having to Bluetooth them?" But I think on a tablet you're not going to know where it is unless it's pointed out. It needs to have. Yeah. Oh, maybe it does actually. Looking at a picture of it here, there is a little NFC icon on the back of it. It does look very nice. It looks very Lenovo. It's got that two-tone band where the darker bit has the camera and the brand and things like that. I'm looking at my Lenovo now going, this is the same thing.
Yeah, or Pixelbook.
Yeah. But again, it's just a boring set of specifications that are so typical of Android tablets now, with a slightly refreshed outside that I do say does look a good bit better than what it did before.
One of the differences between the T20 range and the T10 range is the build quality. You have to acknowledge. So the T20, T21 is made of aluminium. It's a solid build. It's almost like rugged. Whereas the T10 is all plastic, and which is no big deal, I don't think, for an 8-inch tablet, and it's very well priced. But I don't see why they've updated the T20 myself.
Well, keeping on the theme of tablets, Android L is going to be making its way onto Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 devices. So that's the big end of the Samsung Galaxy Tab range. No mention of the S7 or the Lights or any of those sort of things. What was the other one? I've forgotten the name of their funky wee tablet, the FE series.
Oh yeah.
So it's just the S8s at the moment, but I guess that's a good starting point to show that we're hopefully going to get it. Android 12L is the version of Android that is kind of focused for the larger screens. L standing for large screens as opposed to lemming, and it's more along the lines of what they did with Android Honeycomb back in the day. And it seems a bit ridiculous that they're going to go back to that, where there was this one version that sat there weirdly and didn't get updated to the next version, which was Android 4, I think it was. After that, and 5 and 6, and tablets were left on honeycomb because they're not going to put that level of effort into updating 2 different versions of the operating system. But hopefully the 12L will drop on all major popular device or tablets out there that can support it. Are you excited about this one? You should be getting this on your Flip, shouldn't you?
I should, yeah. It's due early September apparently on the Flip 3, Flip 4, Fold 3 and Fold 4. What I don't get though about the Galaxy tablets is why they're doing this for the tablets, or prioritising this for the tablets that have got DeX on board anyway. Because most of the stuff that we know about Android 12L is all about screen presentation and sharing of apps and split screen and that taskbar down the bottom. You turn your Galaxy Tab S8 into DeX mode and you've got all that anyway. You can do what you like with it. You can window stuff to your heart's content. You've got a fully functioning taskbar down the bottom like you have in Windows. I don't know. It seems like of all the devices to put Android 12L on, the top end Galaxy Tab devices is probably not the one to bother with. It'd probably be better to try and put it on one of the A series tablets to see that doesn't have DeX already. See what I mean?
Well, yes, there's that side of it, but there's also the side of Android 13 is out there. Are they going to get Android 13 at some point? Are they just going to have 12L for 6 months and then move to Android 13?
There's also talk of 13L as well, and 14 at this stage as to what they're doing with that. It's all a bit of a mix-up, really. I wish Google would just drop this stupid L thing, and just do what they're going to do, put it into 13 and be done with it, for goodness sake.
Goodness sake. Yeah. And allow people to be able to install it what they like. There's smart screens out there that could support it, and they could put it on there. I always thought that was the general gist of Android, was an operating system that you could just put on technology and run. It seems that Chromebook or Google Chrome Flex is that version of an operating system that you can just stick on anything and get it to run again. Well, within limits.
Yeah, within Chromebook. The point you made about the flip phone, though, which I've got in my hand now, is that I really don't think there's much point in doing super split screen left and right.
Yeah.
I can't see that I'm going to use it any more than you would. I don't know. There might be more of an argument with the Surface Duo, I suppose. But
I was aiming for the Fold, but then I forgot you've got the Flip as opposed to the Fold. Yeah, it's just Samsung.
The Fold would be more useful. Yeah, I do agree. The Fold more useful. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on before anyone corrects me again. Right. So next up, continuing with Samsung, is that they've shown off a new exciting patent that shows off like a transparent display technology that allows you to see what's on your phone on the back of your phone, so you don't have to go through the horror of having to turn your phone over to see the screen.
I didn't quite understand this.
No.
There's a display on the rear which is apparently transparent and can work like a standard display or in a more subdued role like an always-on display. The panel can be customized to display different designs, device information and more, blah, blah, blah. So I don't quite understand what the transparent bit is. Does that mean you can see through to the workings of the phone? Or maybe what it means is that if you don't have it on, you just see the back of the phone.
Well, I'm wondering if it's just a small display that's connected to the front camera, and it maybe works in a e-ink type of way, but it's actually a better screen that's really thin. And I'm not entirely sure either. I don't think this the article really. It's for clever people to read, not for us. But the first thing I looked at, I was like, hang on a second, where's the battery go? Which is
if that's, you see, there's two screens going on there
Yeah.
on these diagrams. There's one in the top corner, which we have seen before. Someone else has done that. Who was it? Xiaomi, wasn't it? So you could have a little display on the back on the top right hand corner next to the camera.
Yes.
But there's another thing right in the middle of the back.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if that's the one they're talking about or if it's the other one. I don't know. As usual, we don't know a bloody thing about what we're talking about here.
No, we don't. But then, do you think the listeners expect us to?
Right, some of you clever listeners, tell us what on earth that article's about.
God forbid we go and read it. Anyway, the Pixel Watch, the price has possibly leaked for the Pixel Watch, and it's a lot more exciting than, or a lot more agreeable than people were worried about that they were maybe going to bring this watch out and it was going to just align with Apple's offerings. But it has a lower than we expected price tag of between $299 and $349, and that's without that's with the LTE. So they're talking about maybe the no, wait, hang on a second. I had this written down earlier. Yeah, the 299 could be without LTE, and then the 349 would be with LTE.
Where does the 399 come in then?
That's the price of the Apple Watch.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
No, according to 95,
okay,
the
for the
Pixel Watch
LTE
could be $399 for the LTE version, but it could be. Oh, they're guessing at $299 to $349. Okay.
Right. I did actually read this earlier, but I've managed to forget it already because there's so many damn figures included here, and I'm only good at 3 figures. Give me 3 figures, I can keep those 3 in my head. But if it goes beyond that, I'm screwed. So
what I was going to say about this watch was that this could actually be, if you were a Pixel user like you are, and like I could easily be, this could push me back over the edge, of getting a watch that I know is going to work absolutely perfectly with Pixel in the secure way that Apple users know that an Apple Watch will work absolutely perfectly with their iPhone. And I could be sold on this, I think. Even though I don't really want to wear a watch, I could train myself if it's that good. Do you think?
I do have some thoughts about this, and I'm worried that I'm going to get criticised for them. But, the PC brigade come out and, with their pitchforks and things. But this looks like a girl's watch. I wouldn't be wearing this on my wrist because it just looks, frankly, a bit girly. I prefer a chunky watch.
Futuristic.
No, what it is, yes, but they're only doing the one style. I like it whenever Samsung come along and go, here's the watches we're doing. We're doing the Active, we're doing this, that, and the other. And then you get to look and see, what's the manly-looking watch? This isn't manly looking. If I was to try, I got the Tech Watch, and I used it for a little while. I stopped using it because I went and scraped it the second day I wore it, whenever I was under the sink fixing it. And I should have been using a proper, better watch that would be able to do my rough and tumble lifestyle. This would have been dead. There's no way it would have been scraped to bits.
Depends. It might have Victus on the front.
I don't know. I don't read any of that type of glass at all because my Pixel 6 Pro has like tough Gorilla Glass and things on it. There's 2 scrapes on it. One of those scrapes came from a bloody hair. A hair, I tell you. Not as in a rabbity type thing, but a follicle that comes from your head.
I think you need to get in touch with your feminine side. The reason I wouldn't wear this watch if I wasn't going to wear it would be not because of what it looks like, because I think it looks absolutely fine and futuristic.
Girl.
But I
Sorry,
wouldn't.
folks.
But I wouldn't. The reason for me is that I just don't like wearing watches, and that would be a shame if I missed out on this. But anyway.
It's too fashionable for me. I need something chunky. I need a big band around the outside to protect it from the gunfire and explosions that frequent my day, and the signs of porcelain sinks whenever I'm in, an
Iron Man
Timex.
Stuff.
Well, yeah, that's why I was so excited about
Timex.
that Casio G-Shock with Bluetooth support coming out that I still haven't actually bought, but I keep meaning to. They keep emailing me saying it's available now. And there's now a camouflage version of it. Brilliant. I could wear that while I'm gardening. But yeah, no, this would
When's
be
this watch
wrecked.
coming out anyway?
Well,
This is one of the announcements they made in the
September.
I/O, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they haven't. Here is September the 7th. Oh
No,
no,
that's
that's
Apple.
Early October. Oh right, okay. So late September or early October is the launch. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, even if you're not.
Well, I'll watch it from afar. It's a very pretty thing, but it just wouldn't suit my lifestyle.
What
Manly.
might suit your lifestyle is a manly Active 4 tablet Pro Samsung Galaxy.
I'm not that manly. This is shown on the side on a big stack of a big pile of builder's sand and things. I'm not manly at all. No way. This is a rugged tablet that is a 10.1-inch screen. That is a TFT LCD touchscreen, which is 1920 by 1200. It comes with Gorilla Gorilla Glass 5 on top. So that'll get scraped by a hair.
Scratched, yeah. Blimey.
6 nanometer octa-core processor inside, which is the Snapdragon 778G, according to the Google Play console. It's got either 4 gigabytes of RAM with 64 gigabytes of storage, or 6 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage.
Woohoo.
It does have micro SD card support,
Woohoo.
and a big 7,600 milliamp hour battery inside. It also has a little stylus-y thing, and it looks like it could survive being thrown from a radio mast at the top of the Earth.
It can be used without a battery. Oh, I see. Connected to the mains. Well, that's the same as any tablet, isn't it?
That's something to throw in there, yeah. It can take drops from 1 meter naked. Do you have to be naked? Or 1.2 meters if you use the case that comes with it. Right, so that's all 2 centimeters. Wow.
They do seem to be designed for building sites, don't they? But there's something nice about rugged devices. I do agree. Going back on what I said about the Pixel Watch, when you've got this military-grade IP2000 rated everything, and you know that it's a bit like my Nokia XR20 phone. I can be confidently dropping that down a staircase at the library, and it'll just survive. And there's something quite reassuring about that.
I'm quite intrigued by those buttons at the bottom as to whether or not they are clicky buttons or if they're just capacitive touch sensitive E-type buttons.
What buttons at the bottom?
The 3 buttons, the menu button, the home button, and the back button. Obviously, you can't switch them around to the right way, but
no, I think they're clicky buttons.
You do? I suppose you would need them because you'd be wearing a glove.
Yeah.
If you're working
on
a building site.
I don't want the bloomin' back button on the right, though. Thank you very much, Samsung.
I know, that's crazy. Who do you think we are? Savages? My word.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that the case has a little slip point for the pen that's on the left-hand side.
Oh, yeah.
For that, so it's for lefties. Right, okay.
Yeah. And people that want the back button on the right, and left-handed people only.
Right, okay. They haven't made that clear at all, so people will be annoyed. They'll end up dropping the tablet. More sales. Right, gotcha. And this would be good for kids as well. Yeah. I reckon so. This is a good option if you have a reckless child.
There's buttons on the top as well. Presumably they're power and volume rockers and stuff. But there's another one. Maybe that's a Bixby button. Yeah.
Hey Bixby, order more concrete. Oh, maybe that works.
Yes.
Well,
it looks quite interesting.
That's one side of things, but there's a more exciting thing, which is going and having a look at some of the other offerings from other manufacturers that aren't the big 3 or 4 that are just doing these typically generic tablets. Chewy, which is a name we haven't said in a while, but we referred to a number of times, CHUWI, the Chewy HiPad Max is an Android tablet that comes with a Snapdragon 680 chipset, which isn't the most exciting, I have to say. It's got Widevine L1, which we'll be coming to later on, and a very large battery inside it. There's a 10.36-inch display, which is 2000 by 1200. It's got an 84% screen-to-body ratio. It comes with an ARM Cortex A73 inside an A53 CPU cores. It's got an Adreno 610 GPU. That Snapdragon I mentioned earlier. And it's got 8 gigabytes of RAM to support it with 128 gigabytes of storage with expandable storage and dual SIM connectivity. Not just one SIM, but 2. Isn't that amazing? It looks like a good offering with 7,000 milliamp hour battery as well on Android 12. And it currently costs about $400.
What's this thing about $400?
Wait, sorry, $200. Sorry.
Oh no, hang on a minute.
As it stands, the tablet costs $200, although it is stated to rise to $400 after Chewie's flash sale ends on August the 26th.
However,
which has ended.
It's difficult to believe that because it's not anything like. Anyway, my concern here is about this mirroring the Blackview Tab 13. What does that mean? Does that mean that Chewy is a sister company or brother company for the PC crowd to the to Blackview and Chewy? Are they in the same camp? If so, we've got some bad kind of history on Blackview devices, haven't we?
Could be. I'm looking for it on Amazon to see if I can find it.
Right.
It's the iPad Plus, but not the iPad Max.
We were talking about they're comparing it with the Blackview Tab 13 here, and we were talking about the Chewy devices before. My big concern about all this is buying I can't believe it's going to be $400. Let's say it's $200, right? If you pay $200 for this, and then it's abandoned, which is what they used to say about Blackview, anything, it's just abandoned. You don't get any updates, that's it. So your device is good for 1 year or 2. Don't expect any security updates, nothing, and it's gone away. But unfortunately, none of us ever bought a Chewy device, so we don't know now what one of them might be updated to or not.
Well, just having a quick Google there to see whether or not Chewy updates come. There are quite a lot of firmware updates to Chewy iPads. Android 11 just arrived a week ago. For a range of them, so they do get updates. I can't find the Max on Amazon, but you can get it on AliExpress if you dare to go that way. There is a Chewy store on Amazon that has a bunch of very cheap tablets, and having a look at some of those, they are getting updates to newer versions of Android.
Right.
This Max has Android 12, and it will probably get an update then to Android 13. But don't quote me, blame Ted if it doesn't.
And the Snapdragon 680, I think, is absolutely fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. These modern Snapdragon chipsets, even though they sound as though they're mid-tier and even low-tier. I mean, my as discussed before, my Nokia XR20 has got a Snapdragon 480, and it's perfectly all right. Works absolutely fine. So, and those tablets, those Nokia tablets, have got T610s and T6 whatever it is, and again, they work absolutely fine.
Yeah, I did know someone who had a Chewy tablet. I saw that. I think they sold it on PSC. I can't remember who it was. I remember seeing it pop up, and I was looking for a tablet at the time. I didn't go for it because I just didn't recognise the brand that well. And
don't remember that.
Yeah, they might have been Craig.
I don't remember. They've made some Chromebooks as well, haven't they, Chewy? We were looking at those.
They have some Windows laptops as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye on that brand.
Yes. They pop up and go away again quite quickly. Mm-hmm. Lenovo, another brand that seems to be frequenting the podcast a bit more often these days, they are doing some glasses called T1 that allows you to watch videos on the go in private. It's primarily focused on the workplace more so than anything else. But I imagine consumers will be able to get them if they turn out to be quite good and not end up causing people migraines and their eyes to bleed or anything like that. But they allow you to have a VR-like headset affair with a USB Type-C connection to go with it. Would you have a set of these?
I do like the look of the physical buttons. If you look at one of the photographs here, underneath one of the arms, you've got the volume up and down buttons, and they're physical. They look as though they're very well made as well. And you've got the sound coming out by your ears. And no, the answer is I wouldn't use a pair of these, but it's really interesting to see where people are going with this. And you remember the one that we talked about on the last show, or the one before, which was the Xiaomi one, which looked absolutely ridiculous, which we assigned to industry or commerce, and you couldn't possibly go down the pub with it on. Well, these ones, I suppose you could. They're still thick and chunky, and it might still look a bit odd, but you'd more chance using them out in public, I think.
Yeah, I don't think people would be using them out in public. They'd bump into the bus stop and things because they can't see where they're going.
Oh, you can't see at all? I thought you could see through part of the...
No, I think these are sort of lens... Well, I got the impression that they were... You could wear them on an airplane and watch a video without other people seeing.
Yeah, but I thought it was in just part of the screen. Is there no prescription? I thought I read somewhere that it said that you can put prescription lenses in them. Perhaps I dreamt it.
But whenever I suppose you could turn off the screen then and still wear them as lenses.
Yes,
right. Okay.
That's what I thought. But I can't find the prescription lens bit, so I was talking crap.
Once again, listener, you're here for nothing more. You're not getting tech news this week. You're just getting nonsense.
Right, let's supposing you can turn it off and use them as ordinary sunglasses.
I was just about to move on to help you there,
Would you wear them?
Yes, I would. I'd love something like this. Although as long as it's not as difficult to do as swapping from phone to tablet on a pair of headphones, which I was trying to do the other day, and it's not something I do terribly often anymore. And my headphones kept tuning into my phone, and I wanted them to tune into my tablet. And I show my age by tuning in. But the connection just kept defaulting to my phone. I was like, no, do I have to open the Bluetooth in here, disconnect it manually, and then try and get my tablet to pick them up? Oh, it's not picking them up. There's another word from the past, picking up. Why not? I have to turn them off and back on again. Oh, my phone's picked them up again. No, the tablet. Turn off Bluetooth on my phone altogether. Oh, the COVID ID thing's going off, going, oh, we can't check if there's anyone with COVID around you. Oh, flipping heck, right, okay.
The Sony XM4 headset, which I've got here, they're smart enough to deal with that. So they default to the one you're playing. So you can have two devices connected to it, and whichever one is actually being used at the time, it will send the signal to the headphones. And if you try and play on the other device, it won't overtake the one that's already going. But as soon as you turn it off on the first device, it then knows to send the second device. So Sony have kind of helped that process. But I do agree, it's a bit of a fiddle.
But I wonder if Lenovo will have that technology built into their T1 glasses.
No.
Okay, well, we'll talk about headphones then, because JBL, one of your favourite companies, has debuted the Tour Pro 2, which I vaguely remember might have been the name of a car or something. Was it a BMW Tour Pro 2, maybe? With the world's first smart charging case with the touch display. I like the sound of this, Ted. I do. Because there's nothing worse than opening a pair of headphones and wondering if there's charge or wondering what it's connected to, and being able to tinker with things directly on the headphones.
Yeah, I suppose this saves having the app open on your phone, doesn't it? So you can actually... It's got a panel on the case, and you can then control various aspects of what's happening with the feed from whatever is being fed from. But you could do all that on an app on the phone. It just saves you doing that, I suppose. And you get the feeling that people at JBL have thought to themselves, oh, we're a bit bored today. What can we actually do that no one else has done yet? And see if we can start a trend going. I know, we'll put a app in our headphones cases, our earphone cases, and make it all happen that way instead. But yeah, it gives you all the information you want and gives you control from the case. And also, apparently, it echoes notifications on that as well. It just seems a bit strange, really, that it's just replicating what you would do in the app on the phone. And I'm not quite sure why you wouldn't just look at your phone.
because you might have it in your pocket and you're walking along with. Generally, I have a case for my Sennheisers. Sennheisers? Edifiers. And I'll pull out Sennheisers is the word I use. I pull out the case quickly, whereas my phone can be in my backpack or in my coat pocket and things like that. So there's a button on it to be able to turn off the headphones on the case, which is really handy. It's one of the reasons why I've kept them going. But being able to interact a wee bit more with the case would be great. I hate having to touch headphones. And I do have a set over here, which one headphone, the right one, whenever you touch it, it does something. Whenever you touch the left one, it does something different. And you've got to try to remember what it is. If you want to pause what you're listening to, I think you have to hit the left one, and then the right one turns on and off noise cancelling or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but it was a real pain in the ass to remember when you were out in the wilds dealing with all the things that my smartwatch couldn't handle. I like the idea of being able to just see, we'll do that and we'll do that.
250 quid.
Right, okay, I don't like them that much.
The earphones better be good. Clearly all the money's probably gone into the case. There's also a pair of headphones down here. I didn't see that.
Yeah, there is. They're the proper over-ear headphones.
The Tor 1 M2. What's that about? Have you read this?
No, I was relying on you because you said you were brushing up on this beforehand.
50 hours of playback. That's good. Better than the Sony's.
And they're due to arrive in January.
299 quid. They look quite attractive,
with
actually.
Active noise cancelling too.
Yeah. They look really attractive, I think. They look nice.
They have ambient awareness built in as well for conversation, so it can turn off your noise cancelling if it detects someone talking to you.
That's quite funny. If you go into a shop, I've got that on my Sony's. You go into a shop and you start saying, "Cup of coffee, please, love," and whatever's playing to you just stops so you can hear what they reply. It's quite funny to use.
Is that not really annoying if you're sitting on a bus and two people decide to have a conversation beside you?
It does seem to know. It listens for your voice, I think. So I suppose if you went to the counter of the coffee house, and you didn't speak, then you might have to speak first. I don't know, I've not tested it enough.
That's a good idea, where it maybe it's some sort of bone conducting thing where it's built in that it can tell when you're talking. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll be looking for that in future. That sounds pretty good.
Well, in the Sony thingy, it's got the thing in the left ear as well, the sensor, so it knows for when you take the things off and it stops. The Sony headphones really are very clever.
Yes, aren't Sony just the cat's knackers?
Yes.
USB 4 version 2.0 will deliver up to 80 gigabits per second bandwidth for faster data transfers. Isn't that astonishing, Ted?
I'm hoping you'll talk about this one because I've got no... You see that second link I put in the show notes there? Deep Dive. You want to try and read that? My God. I got lost in the first paragraph. Graphs and charts and all the stuff about how USB has evolved and what does what and how everything fits in with everything else. You need a degree to read that.
Well, I think the long and the short of it is that this is going to be faster than what we've had before.
Well done.
Didn't need a degree for that, did I? But it is a wee bit confusing whenever you get down to it. You know, the red super speeds as well. Is it compatible with those? Do you get better speeds if you can hook it up to the super speed, or would you get better speeds if you were to hook it up to the USB Type C? Oh, who knows? But yes, there is a chart there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And also if you use optical cables, which apparently has not been done yet. So down your tube of your USB-C cable, USB 4, it's not actually a bit of wire, it's optics, and that's even faster.
Yeah. But are we going to have to rip out the USB Type-C connectors that we have on our hardware and put in new ones in order to be able to have this?
No,
or is it all just going to be down to the cable?
Yeah, it will be backwards compatible in terms of still functioning, but you won't get the higher level connectivity speeds. That's as I understand it. But you take your own shot at that because it's so complicated.
Well, I'm just reading it now. Bear with me, everyone.
Okay. While you do that, I'll go and open the door.
Don't be talking while I'm reading. I can't
Stand
understand.
And don't leave this in the show.
This is complicated.
I've got letters, you know.
Ooh, there's all manner of information in here, folks. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'll pretend to Ted while he's away that I have read it and that I had a thorough and meaningful conversation with you about what was contained within. And whenever he comes back, you can all just hum and agree and say, "I know what we're talking about here," and that's essentially how it all works. And then the light is diminished at the end of it, and that is the USB 4 technology in a nutshell.
Well done. I'm glad I was not missing to hear that.
Yeah, it is fascinating. It really is. And I reckon that if folks are interested in that, they should send in letters next week and let us know exactly what they thought of it. Terrific.
Yeah, including me, who missed the whole summary.
Well, it's not that difficult once you start really to digging down into it. It
Okay.
does become clear after the second line. So you obviously didn't give it too long. All right. Anyway.
I'm just too thick.
Yeah. The audience agrees. So, Google and Qualcomm are going to tease satellite connectivity with Android phones. There does seem to be a bit of a race at the moment for companies to be able to get your signal through satellites where you can't get it through the local grid or the cell phone array that you might be attached to. If you think about it as one of those gimmicks in a film where they're stuck and they look at their phone and go, "Oh no, we've got no reception. We can't phone the police. Bigfoot's over there urinating on our tent and we're scared." So they won't be able to get the Ranger Bob to come up and deal with Yogi.
Bob the Ranger.
What was the Ranger called in Yogi Bear?
Ranger Roger. No, I can't remember.
We'll have to look it up. So it'll allow you to be able to connect directly to a satellite and make an emergency call. It'll probably cost you an absolute fortune, so don't be doing it terribly often. Or try and get someone else to do it for you. Shout over, go, "Help! Make an emergency call, dial 911." And they can do it for you through a satellite connection.
No signal.
Yes. We first heard about this whenever Elon Musk started talking about Starlink and possibly putting out his own phone, like a Tesla phone or something like that, or the Elon Musk phone. And since then, we've been hearing more and more companies saying that they're putting some sort of satellite connectivity into the device to allow you to be able to make emergency calls directly to satellite. Ted, do you foresee any problems, pitfalls, or pericobulations here?
I think this is a bit different to the story we did last week, which was T-Mobile and SpaceX. Starlink filling in the gaps where one doesn't work and the other one does. I think that how I interpreted this was that customers could, if they want to, just buy a phone and sign up with an ordinary Android phone, any old phone, eventually, because it will be built into Android 14 or 13L, as we said earlier. You could have a satellite contract instead of a cellular contract. And you just always have cellular connectivity, like you would with the Starlink, but on your phone. That's as I understood this. Not that it was going to patch the difference, like we spoke about last week with the T-Mobile thing. No?
Right. Okay. Well, it was from the tweet there that I was having a look at, which says that when we launched G1 in 2008, it was a stretch to get your 3G and Wi-Fi working. Now we're designing satellites as well. So I just imagine it was sort of going to swing from one to the other, where if you're on the Australian outback getting attacked by crocodiles, you could get connection if you absolutely required it.
Yeah, I do get that, and I think you're right, absolutely. But I think that fits in with the story we had last week more so than what this might be going forward, which is you could choose, instead of having instead of paying money to Vodafone or EE, you could say, right, I'm going to have a Starlink contract, and it's my phone, and my phone is smart enough to be able to use that now because Android 14 has built the software in to do that, and I'm, two fingers up to operators, I'm going satellite.
But then isn't this the reason why they're not selling Starlink in the centre of a city? Because they don't want too many people using it. They want to be able to preserve it for those who kind of, need it.
Right, okay. Well, we'll see, won't we?
So
With
whenever you're in the city,
they might
you
make
will
it
just use
better.
the traditional cellular network.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
One phone that doesn't have it built into it, though, is the Sony Xperia 5 4.
Yeah, the Sony Xperia 5 Mark IV.
No, it doesn't say Mark 4, it just says 5 4.
Yeah, and this has been released this week. And again, we covered this to some degree in PSC last night. But just the highlights are that it's got a Qi charging facility, which is new for the 5 series, which is absolutely great. We've been banging on about that for so long. It retains all the other goodness in there. Not a huge amount other than that has really changed, although there is a 256GB version available coming. But everything else is pretty much the same. The thing that Ian Bundy was talking about on the show last night was the fact that it's got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which is now, believe it or not, last year's tech, and overheats by experience.
Oh, does
And
it?
the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 would have been the one to go with. But if you're a hard-nosed gamer or videographer, then I suppose you might hit the limits on that. But yeah, I think that the upgrade, as usual with these 5 series devices, most Sony devices, is actually quite small. The Qi charging for me is the big one. But I think they've priced themselves out of it again.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about £900 at least. We actually haven't got a price on this for the UK yet, but it looks like it's going to be about £900, and it's just too much. They needed to be £799. That was our analysis last night, and it would sell much better then, I think. What do you reckon?
I do reckon that £900 is a sweet spot that the Sony fans will happily pay to get the next incarnation. There's not too many people outside of the Sony niche that look at these. I think they probably pick up as many new fans every year as they lose. So I think they just carry on with their dedicated bunch of folks, and I don't fault them at all for that. They know what they're paying. Whenever you look at the video there, 4K, 120 frames per second through Sony Optics, it's going to be lovely. It would be really nice to be able to get on board with that. I know a lot of other phones do that as well, but you know that with this you're going to get that slightly better quality, that slightly more reliable, consistent quality in the video. I'll be excited by that.
The argument that I was making last night really was I can't see this. It's got this new thing called Music Pro on it. So alongside Photo Pro and Cinema Pro, you've got Music Pro now, which is supposed to be designed at professional audio people that are recording audio for a living. And I just don't get that if you're recording cinema film, or you're taking fantastic photos to sell for a living, or you're recording audio for a living, you're not going to use your poxy little 5-inch phone, 6-inch phone in your pocket. You'll have all the right gear to do it with. And that was my argument really, was I don't see who's going to buy this. I don't see where this is being pitched. To some degree you could argue the Pro I version of the Sony, all right, but even so, professionals are going to have proper gear to do this with. They're not going to just be relying on their phone. That was my argument anyway.
Well, I don't see this as being a professional's phone.
They do. Sony do.
I know, but the people who pick these up, I would imagine, would be the likes of a YouTuber who needs the best possible quality for that medium. And, they'll be out recording on this, and it'll have everything you need to be able to produce a professional YouTube video. Not something that you're going to throw up on the big screen at the end of the day, but something that's going to go out on your socials. And this is overkill for the socials.
What about Music Pro then? You're signing up a new artist, and you're going to make a breakthrough on recordings.
Well, with TikTok music and things like that, and YouTube music being a big thing, that's really an avenue that people are going to explore. If you're a professional who's looking to do that kind of thing, this is a really good option for you. An iPhone is a lot more expensive and does that sort of thing, but then you need to get optional extras to be able to enhance that and do what Sony actually has here.
But if you were geared up to that kind of level of production, you would have proper equipment to do it with.
Not necessarily. If you're someone in your bedroom and you have something pretty good going, you've got a bit of a good YouTube channel, and you need just to take that little extra step, £949 isn't a bad option to be able to get everything you need to get that extra step before you go full pro.
And then what happens when you're using this, and as Steve said last night, someone phones you. You're in the middle of doing loads of recording and stuff, and you can't use the phone for anything else. The phone is tied up.
No professional has their phone on during a take.
Yes. Anyway, I don't know. There's two sides to this, and I just think that my arguments would all fall away if it was cheaper.
No, I think this is a really good phone, a good option for anyone who's looking to creatively produce content. The likes of our pal Alan Gilday will probably be using something like this. He would want to use something like this. Even Aidan Bell would probably make use of some of these sorts of things for his web influence side of stuff. This is a good option.
Aidan's got proper recording equipment. He wouldn't use this.
I was selling him a bit short there, I have to say. But just thinking of there's a girl on Grafton Street in Belfast who has a YouTube channel that has something like 5 million viewers. She could use something like this, and it would really enhance her performance. She maybe uses an iPhone or an expensive Android phone, but this has everything that she needs built in to be able to... I'm doing that to death. Okay, it's good for some people and not for others. We'll agree on that.
Moving on.
Variable aperture smartphone cameras will make a comeback next week. I forgot to lift mine out of the cabinet over there. I was going to click it today because I have a variable aperture telephone, and it's called the HTC Titan. It has a switch on the back that you could switch between two f-stops, and I can't remember.
That was my question, is because they're not very clear about this forthcoming Huawei phone as to whether it's going to be the same as what Samsung did and what you're just describing with two set apertures, or it's actually going to be a proper variable aperture. In which case, that would be really, really big news. The first time that's been done on a phone, not just this two-step thing. So I was hoping you were going to say the Titan had proper variable.
Well, no, it doesn't. It just had a switch. But it would be nice to be able to do that automatically. And it would be nice to have a few different steps. And perhaps that's what Huawei's going to do here, is like have a range of maybe 3 or 4 steps, maybe more. I can't imagine it being the full range.
Don't know. If there's an aperture in there with a slider on the side of the phone, and you just move the slider to what you want, just like with a camera. I don't know why it's such a big problem.
Well, they should just employ you, shouldn't they?
I could have done that years ago.
Yeah. Ted gets out his screwdriver and some sellotape. Right, let's get to this. No, it would that get you back on to Huawei's bandwagon?
No, not at all. But it would make me take the Sony Xperia phone more seriously. All joking aside, if the Sony Xperia, because it's all but a proper camera in an Xperia phone these days, but that one missing element is a proper control of aperture. And those naysayers say, "Oh, you don't need that anymore because you can work it out for yourself and use other settings to get that and control that." Well, sod off, because I want to have proper aperture control, and that's part of proper photography for me. So, yes, in answer to your question, I would buy into that, but not from Huawei.
Okay, all right. Well, that's that covered then.
What I would buy into is decrackling my vinyl.
Absolutely. This is promising technology. You take this. Go for it.
I've got a project turntable that I'm looking at now, and it's really nice, as we've discussed before. But this new turntable, it's not the new turntable that's interesting. What's interesting is the box that comes with it, which is, you buy separately, and it's got this setting on it that says de-crackle. And I can only imagine, I've not looked into the technology of how it works, but you've got this kind of dial whereby you put your knackered old bit of vinyl on there, which you bought, in about 50 years ago, and it's all completely scratched and knackered. And this thing makes it sound brilliant. And I can only imagine the parallel might be with noise cancellation in headphones, that it does something to listen to what's coming out, processes the sound, takes away the crap, and then delivers you a kind of perfectly de-crackled. It's just really funny that it's got the de-crackle word on the box.
Because that's a proper term, isn't it?
Is it? I didn't know that.
No,
Anyway,
I'm not saying that it is now.
This is going to cost about £300, and it sits between your turntable and your amp, and it sounds like good fun for people that have got knackered old LPs.
Yeah.
The turntable is something else, which is all of them are lovely, aren't they?
They are. I wonder if you'll be able to use this just on a standard one. If you went down to Argos and bought one of their 20 quid ones and stuck this in between, would it be effective?
Good question.
Well, you can give it a go. Yeah.
799 quid the turntable is, look.
That's lovely. It is absolutely lovely.
Yeah. I do like my project stuff. It's very nice.
One day.
Yeah.
All right, in a new section, because we do tend to touch on this quite frequently, is In the Name of the Game, where we talk about a wee bit of gaming stuff, because there's more and more stuff every week. Mm-hmm. The first one was, we'd mentioned a few weeks ago that Logitech were going to be doing a new handheld games console that was focused on cloud gaming. And it looks like some photographs are arriving of what it's actually going to be. And it's the Logic G gaming handheld. This is actually an Android-based device that taps into, with a sort of an overscreen or an overlay, into the cloud gaming arena. Be Google Play, Xbox, Nvidia, Steam. I think Sony are pushing out theirs soon. I was trying to have a go with it and do some remote play on my PlayStation 5 the other night, and it was almost quite good. Because for those who don't know, Android 12 had problems with the games console joypad thing that I had that was USB powered and wouldn't let me use it. But now that I've upgraded to Android 13, everything's working again. It's all great. So I can now stream directly to my phone using that. But Logitech are jumping on board and doing a dedicated device that runs Android. It's got its own CPU and GPU specification, which haven't been released yet, but we've got some photographs. Ted, is this an option for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love these devices, and whenever we highlight one on the show, I say, I want one of those. If it runs Android and you can therefore install whatever you like on it, it becomes an option to the Nokia T10, doesn't it? Because while you're not gaming and using all the gaming controls, you can just use it as any tablet and make it your kind of Android device. So here's, in one hand, I've got a new tiny little folding phone, and then suddenly we're going giant again on a bigger... What size screen is on this one?
I think it's a 6-inch. I don't see it on this. Maybe it was the other link that I put in there as well, because I got one from GSM Arena. I vaguely remember seeing 6 inches.
Yeah. I'd be all over this. I think it's really, really nice. But I like all of them. I'm a sucker for these.
Well, this was one of the devices that was being routed as a Steam Deck alternative. But then it's just yet another Android-based device, of which you have to notice that there are so many of them populating the likes of AliExpress, which are Android-based retro devices that do emulation plus cloud streaming. So it's big enough business that it's attracted a company like Logitech to step in there and partnering with, was it Tencent, to produce this cloud gaming platform with a heavy Android overlay to make it nice and easy to be able to do it. But if you notice at the far right, you've got both Chrome and YouTube options as well to be able to do most of your what people do on Android or on Android devices, especially when it's gaming influenced. I like the look of this. I do. It's got an interesting style. The D-pad on the left-hand side is below the Joy-Con, and then on the right-hand side you have the YBXA buttons with the Joy-Con below them. So it's a staggered Joy-Con. Which some people are going to like, some people aren't going to like. If you look at the Steam Deck, it's not that way. But then if you look at the PlayStation Vita, it got a bit of criticism because both Joy-Cons were down low, and it could cause hand ache after a while. So this is a bit more Nintendo Switch-esque. I think that's the way the Switch has it laid out, doesn't it?
Does it? I was just trying to remember that.
You have one.
I know, and I hardly ever touch it. It's your fault. I find ways of getting these gaming things. I never use them, like the Evercade. There was ever talking of being in the name of the game. There was an Evercade thing out this week, wasn't there? Announcing a load of new games or something.
Yes, yeah, the EXP is being released along with a slew of software.
Anyway, sorry, I hijacked your item. Carry on.
You're okay. No, I've just looked up the Switch. Yeah, it's the same layout as the Switch, but you have a proper D-pad as opposed to the 4 buttons under the left Joy-Con.
Okay.
So that's the best way to do it, because the Switch, very few people complain about it, whereas the Steam Deck tends to have the Joy-Cons up quite high, and I've heard people having problems with that and the touch-sensitive pads underneath it. So it's an impossible thing to get right. Everyone has different shaped hands, so one pocket of society is going to have a problem with this no matter what. But I do like it. You're going to have one of these, aren't you?
I never noticed. I'm looking at a picture of the Nintendo Switch Lite now, and I just didn't know that they were different heights. And I would have, if I hadn't looked at that, I would have complained. But actually, I've used the Switch Lite perfectly well. I've not complained about it.
Well, actually, that's the point. Is the Switch Lite that way around, or did they move?
No, the Switch. That's what I was looking at. The Switch Lite. They're offset. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah, it's the same between Switch and Switch Lite. Okay. Yeah. So it's that way around. So you should be okay then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas the Vita is the offensive one, but it
So
was the first.
So on this Logitech 10-cent thingy, you can just use it for anything Android. If it's on the Play Store, presumably you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Okay.
Android games generally have controls support built into them. Not all of them do, and whenever it comes to some of the more touchscreen based games, you obviously have a touchscreen to be able to play them with. These are
Has this
optional.
not got a touchscreen?
It does.
Yeah. So I mean, if you, for example, install Gmail, and then you can just use Gmail as a touch device.
Yeah, you're not going to find much fun in there. But,
Yes, I'm kind of missing the point of this, really, aren't I?
no, but I do like this, and it's nice to see these things arriving quite quickly, and a bigger manufacturer, because there always is that trust issue with some of the companies that you haven't heard of before, and having to buy something like this from them. It may have lesser quality Joy-Cons, which is always something that goes on a device. Even PlayStation controllers, the Joy-Cons eventually go. Nintendo has drift problems. And they're notorious. The Switch is notorious for having drift problems on the Joy-Cons, and how they just go after a while. So with Logitech on board here, you'd expect to get a slightly better quality device, maybe, hopefully, with any luck.
Yeah, you say that. I'm looking at my keyboard now, my Logitech keyboard, which cost £100. And on the left shift key, the paint's coming away. So I can't actually read the word shift anymore because the black paint has come away from it. I've only had this about 6 months.
That might be your nail polish remover or something like that. My shift is fine.
It's all right on the other side. It's just on the left side. And there's kind of white showing through. And when the light comes on, it's clearly just the paint's come away.
Are you sure it's Logitech and you didn't just buy a knockoff?
Yeah, of course it is. It's got Logi written on it. Anyway,
mine's much older than yours, and mine's perfect.
My dad's got one as well, and his is perfect. But there is, maybe I just use my keyboard too much. There's paint wearing away. On the bottom corner of the control key, if I look at the edge of that, and also the bottom corner of the shift key on the left, there's paint wearing away on that as well. So I'm either using it far too much, or I've got a defective one.
I think it's defective. I've had mine for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and I use it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And the shift is my favourite button. I press it all the time.
Right. Well, I don't use nail polish.
Well, as a gamer as well, I would use that because that's run whenever you come to
yeah.
first-person shooters. Yeah.
I've tried to think, oh, maybe it's not. I'll clean it off. So I keep trying to clean it, and it doesn't come away. So it's not something that's landed on the key. But also, as I say, looking closely round the edges of those two bottom keys, it's worn away as well. Perhaps I'll send it back.
I think you should. Yeah. Maybe it's just the end-of-line product or something like that, or you got one that someone else has had a problem with, and they just painted them back on with Tipp-Ex. Or liquid paper, as you say in America.
It's perfectly all right. Apart from that, the keyboard is absolutely fine. It works perfectly.
Yeah. Well, that's enough of that because I want to talk about the next thing because I'm dead excited about
carry
it. GPD, a company that we've mentioned a number of times in the past that do some really exciting gaming devices. The GPD Win 4 has been, the possibilities are dropping in for these stock shots of what they're going to be, or renders, I guess would be the best word for them, of the new version. The GPD Win 3 was an exciting device, but the GPD Win 4 looks even better. If you took a PlayStation Vita and expanded it a good bit, so it's a wee bit bigger, and stuck a 5-inch screen, or maybe even, is it 6-inch? Yeah, it's a 6-inch screen in the middle that slides up to reveal a whole QWERTY keyboard underneath it, with the Joy-Cons arranged in the way that we just discussed with that Logitech there and the Nintendo Switch. Then you have pretty much the GPD Win 4. Inside of it, they're looking to have an AMD Ryzen 7 6800U with the RDNA graphics chip as well in there, a 1920 by 1800 pixel display. Wow. With the physical keyboard buttons as well. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And it's going to run to Windows 11, isn't it?
Is it?
I think, yeah, it's a fully fledged Windows
Wow.
PC. And their Indiegogo campaign is due to go live later in the year. And I will be putting money on it because I think this looks absolutely fantastic.
Depends how much. What's the risk?
Oh, I don't know. There was a link there to their previous Indiegogo campaign for the WinMax 2, which is more of a laptop type affair. And it got fully backed and it's still got 20 hours to go, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like something you would like, but it was $1,000.
Right, yeah, that's the problem, is that on these kind of Kickstarters, you're risking your money, basically. I was just going to say that it's such a rip-off of Sony, isn't it? All the styling and everything. It's just like what is it called? A PSP?
Vita,
yeah. And it just looks exactly the same. You think, Sony are going to sue them for that because it's just a rip-off. Anyway, yeah, the keyboard looks really nice. I'm a sucker for these devices, but it's going to just be silly money. I know it is.
Well, I don't know if it's £1,000 for the Ryzen 7 inside of it. That's excellent. But think of just how much you would use this device as a portable computer that you can take and you can plug it into stuff as well. And have it, HDMI out on there. There's a wee dock as well they're proposing that has 3 USBs, an Ethernet, USB Type-C, and HDMI out. This is another Steam Deck style clone that will hopefully be able to make the most of what Steam has done to implement controller or remedy controller issues. And it just looks gorgeous. Oh, I love this. I really want this.
Here's the. Does it not say what the minimum backing is? They've got £2.7 million already.
Mm-hmm.
There's 20. What's it left?
But that's for the Win Max 2. That's a different device.
Okay.
If you have a look at the picture beside that figure that you just read out, it's more of a laptop with little Joy-Cons up in the top with a touchpad in the middle too, and a full QWERTY keyboard, and it folds down like a laptop. That's a very nice device, but compared to this, you're
perhaps it's closed then. Maybe the early backing's closed on this.
No, you can still do it. It's got 20 hours left.
Well, how come you don't know how much it costs then?
This is still the Max. We're talking about the Max 2.
Yeah.
We haven't done the
Win 3. No, the Win 4.
That hasn't started its campaign.
Oh, I
yet.
see. Right. Okay.
Keep
so
up.
this is not even out there yet. Right.
No.
Okay.
But the current one that they're doing is out there.
Right.
And it's got £2 million of backing after
Yes.
3,000 people have backed.
Yes.
And it ends in 20 hours. So
I
later
understand.
this year, the Win 4. will
Right.
start.
Right. Okay.
And it'll probably be £1,000 or whatever.
Okay.
And at that, I'll be... I'll set up a GoFundMe to be able to buy one.
I understand now.
Yeah. But I thought you would like this little laptop-y type affair. You always like your wee laptops.
Definitely. I love it. I love the look of that, but it'll be priced out of my league, certainly on release. And it's a great little toy. I'd love to have fun with that.
Yeah, so it's £1,000 for with that Ryzen 6800U in there, 1 terabyte plus 16 gigabytes of RAM. That's a crazy laptop at that for £1,000.
Yeah.
You can have 32 gigabytes of RAM in there for $1,200.
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
it say anything about the battery?
The battery in this current one, I'd like to think they would just use the same battery because it's tried and tested. If I can find battery information, I will read it out.
Okay then. In the meantime, I'll twiddle my thumbs and look out the window at the sun shining down, beating down on my very existence, making me hotter and hotter, and then eventually you may have found the information by the
67
time...
WH large capacity battery.
67 WH.
Watt-hour battery.
I can't work that out. Why don't they do milliamp hours? It's much easier. There's a formula.
The battery supports 14 hours of office work or 68 hours of 1080p local playback or 5 hours of gaming.
Right.
So that sounds like it's pretty much similar to the Steam Deck.
Okay.
But this is obviously in this laptop configuration that features a much larger screen.
Very nice.
Yes.
I want one too. You can. I'll tell you what. You can buy me one.
Well, I will if they're doing 2 for 1.
Jolly good.
You can have the other. Or my son might get it first. If they're doing 3 for 1, you can have it. So, that moves us into Flop Your Trap about an app. Social says they are unwilling to say no to violent speech. However, Google Play might just keep them out of the App Store if they're going to not say no to violent speech. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's it.
That's going to anger ex-president Donald Trump, who spent tens of dollars developing the Truth social network. Folks, it is Donald Trump. So whilst I'm sure it's a wonderful app and things like that, I've never had any experience of it. I can't imagine that he has spent lots of money on this. I just imagine it's probably been cut and pasted together from other things out there. But Google may.
He might have a team on it. He's got plenty of money. He might have employed a team of engineers to make sure it was really, really good. And is really pissed off now because no one can get it unless they sideload it. And I don't know how many users he's claiming that he's got so far, but Yeah, Google are doing the decent thing. So there's the Truth Social network saying we want to be able to say what we like because freedom of speech, even if that includes violence or doing naughty things to children, whatever, anything goes. And Google are quite rightly saying, no, hang on a minute, we've got to, be sensitive to people's needs and wants and protect people and keep the world a bit safer. So sod off. And
Yeah.
I think Google are right.
Well, the ownership of Truth Social, Digital World Acquisition Corp, it just isn't making money. They've lost $6 million this year alone.
Right.
So this setback is probably going to mean that they won't be able to recoup that quite so easily.
Right.
Yeah.
But then he probably doesn't care, does he? Because he's got so much money. He's in for the long game probably on this one. And if he gets re-elected to be president again, that's it. He'll be away. He'll be passing all the laws to allow it to happen.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He'll probably buy Twitter. Forget about Elon Musk. He'll be out of the frame.
True. Maybe that court case will be dropped as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of, Twitter is going to be bringing back one thing that we liked Google Plus for, and that is the idea of circles. And I love this. I would be so happy if they do this, and as quickly as possible. Circles allow you to be able to add people into various circles that you want to set. So, say for example, me, I do both movies and I do technology. And I find it a wee bit annoying that I might make a tweet of what Bruce Campbell's doing this week, and all of the people who follow me for techie stuff will have to put up with that. So I would be able to tweet to various circles of what things are happening in that circle, so they would be more akin to what was being tweeted there. I put out a tweet this morning of one of the deals that we have, so anyone who follows me looking for filmy type stuff will have to deal with that as well. So it would be great to be able to have circles that you can tweet out to. And I can't believe it hasn't happened already. Ted, are you excited about this?
Yeah. I don't use Twitter very much, but it's another thing that makes me kind of think, yeah, I could do that. And it just shows that Google Plus was really a great idea.
Yeah.
And for some reason they collapsed it, which I still don't really understand. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But my reflection on this was that it's very much like what Telegram does. For example, you set up a group of people on Telegram, give it a name, and the same thing happens in there. You're isolating a group of 150 people in Twitter's case to make a circle. It's a shame that it's only 150, incidentally, because, for example, the PSC MeWe group has got 600 members, so that's 4 times too many to consider doing something with this. But if you're joining other people's circles, then I suppose that wouldn't matter so much. You would, I don't know, I think maybe they'll lift the lid on the 150 at some point. But it does work very similarly to Telegram or even MeWe itself. We've set up 6 groups in MeWe, and they work very similarly to this. You get an isolated audience, but you can also post to public if you want to as well. And then everyone on MeWe will potentially see what it is you're doing. So, yeah, good ideas copied by everyone and started off by Google Plus, it seems.
Yeah. Well, that's always the way, isn't it? Sure, everything you like about Android and everything you like about your iPhone, you can thank Palm for, because they did it first.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving into the Chrome corner. Ted, what is happening with Chrome this week?
Very quick one, or a very simple one, which is that the Chrome box, which I had some years ago, is coming back. Lenovo have decided to roll the dice on releasing another Chromebook, which is quite smart because it attaches to the back of a monitor, given the right monitor and the right fixings or whatever, or it can just sit on the side of your main computer, and you can then use it to plug into if you want to use Chrome OS on your existing desktop setup. I like the whole idea about a Chrome box. And Lenovo will give it the usual 9 years of support, because that's the requirement on Chrome. So it's not as if they're going to abandon it in 5 minutes. I like the idea of that. And also the glanceable widgets we spoke about on the last show. It's a bit of a backward step in terms of finding out about these glanceable widgets on Chromebooks. because we did think that they were going to be much like Android devices on your wallpaper. You can put them where you like; they're always there. It turns out that probably isn't going to be the case. It's only on the welcome page, so you'll only see these widgets when you actually turn the Chromebook on, which is a complete reversal. Well, it's not complete reversal, but it's a stupid reversal of what we thought it was going to be, which was turning your Chromebook screen into an Android phone-like screen and put what you like on it in terms of widgets. So that's a bit of a shame, but it's early days. No one's actually seen this properly in the world yet. It's been rolled out on some Canary builds, but it's very much in its infancy. So if they get lots of feedback that says, no, Google, that's not how to do it, this is how to do it, then perhaps they'll change their minds.
Yeah, okay. Of the Chromebox affair that Lenovo's doing, I wonder how they get their figures here. Is there a demand for this? Do people email Lenovo saying, "Are you doing this?" Or I wonder where they get their figures from to say, "No, this hasn't been done in a while, but people want it."
Good question, isn't it? Well, Lenovo do tend to throw stuff out there. What's encouraging is what I said before already, is though that they can't abandon it with a Chromebook or Chromebox.
Yeah.
And as long as the components inside are all right, it'll be good for 9 years. And it looks like it's quite well specified with an i5 chipset. It's called the ThinkCentre M60Q.
There's quite an interesting heatsink type thing on the back of it as well. I imagine it's a heatsink. That's the only reason you would have that there. It's like a strange crisscross thing that sticks out of the back of the mounting where the Chrome box goes into, and it stretches off the other side of the screen. You can't see it because it's all
really
behind the screen. But
isn't it?
Yeah, I do. I think it's some sort of heatsink.
I don't know. I think the use for me would be as an option on my desktop. So I've got my Windows desktop set up. I've got this box off to one side. If I fancy just dabbling around with Chrome stuff on a Chrome S environment, I can just, flick a switch and get the HDMI to plug into that instead of that, and still use my mouse and keyboard in the same way as I would. I do get it's a kind of niche thing, and you're probably right. How they got their data to think that this will sell is another matter. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, on the topic of heatsinks, while we're there, it's a bit of a segue. I bought a new one this week, and I put it in. I've been watching the Nocturna for a wee while, which is about £80 for the whole heatsink plus fan on top of it.
Right.
And I was doing it because I've been using stock on my Ryzen 9, the stock fan, and I just thought, it goes up and down, and it's a wee bit noisy here and there, and maybe I could get things to run a wee bit cooler. But then I'd seen some reviews of the new Deep Cool thingy, Deep Cool X or AK620, which is their new fan that they're putting out, and it was 40 quid. And a lot of people were saying, don't bother with the Nocturna, go for this instead. It's much, much better. So I decided, it's 40 quid, well, let's see what happens there. I grabbed it and got it and stuck it in. And after realizing that the RGB of my RAM made it a bit too difficult to put it in, and reconfiguring a few things inside the computer, it's sitting here dead silent and looking at the CPU temperature right now, giving it that I'm recording a podcast with two forms of software running to record the audio, plus I've got Chrome and a bunch of other things opening. It's sitting there just at a nice temperature of 40 degrees C. For Ryzen, that's not too bad. And it's dead silent. I can't hear a thing. And I've been trying to challenge it. I was doing a video, editing a video a couple of days ago, and I out-rendered it, and it went up a wee bit. There was a bit of noise from it, and it just kept it at a cool, I think the most it got up to was 43 degrees. With a bit of noise from the fan. It's incredible. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's not water cooled. It's just air cooled, and it's dead quiet. One to look out for, guys. If you've got a need for a fan, look out for that Deep Core.
Very nice.
Yeah, dead silent. On the glanceable side of things, the widget there, I am interested in this. But if they do what they did with Google TV and start sticking things in, advertising or have you seen this or a new app that you might be interested in, I might chuck the Chromebook in the bin. I'm not going to take that. I was most offended by Windows trying to do that to me. I'm not going to be happy if Google try to do that with Chrome.
Even if it's just on the welcome screen. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to have you downloaded Fruit Ninja this week? No.
Well, that's more like a Samsung thing to happen, to be honest. Every time I go to the Galaxy store, that I get presented with that crap. On a Pixel phone, you don't get that. On the at a glance widget, you can include a ton of stuff, and it doesn't. You never get adverts on it. So hopefully it will go the same way as that.
Yeah. It's exciting, and it's good use of space that's not used.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. Right, hark back. And this is one that popped up. It was in my head. I couldn't remember what it was called at all. And I went and did some chasing around and found the website. Plus I found Lon, what's his name? The YouTuber. Lon Simon, is it? Does Lon TV. He did a review of this as well because he had one of these as a kid. I didn't have one, but my friend up the street did, and we got a lot of mileage out of it. It's laser tag from Worlds of Wonder. This was in 1986 and it ran until 2000, but I particularly remember the guns because they were pretty cool looking sci-fi guns from Buck Rogers kind of time. And it essentially was Laser Quest that people would go and play in the darkened factories that would have been abandoned around town. And you could shoot your friends who wore little laser receivers that would have lives. So you had the black gun that shot the laser and had a wee targeting reticle as well, so you could make more precision shots too. And then you would wear this. If anyone's seen Moonraker, the things that Drax sends out into the atmosphere that are full of poison gas, that James Bond has to shoot with the shuttle laser thing. It's preposterous. It's that kind of shape of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexagon. No, sexagon. Yeah, sexagon with a speaker and a wee round red plastic glass thing that would display lights and stuff like that, and you could wear it on your belt, or if you wore the vest, you could mount it in the chest of your vest, and people would try and shoot it, and then there would be a noise that it would emit whenever you got hit, and you would have a number of lives. I think you had 5 lives, and then the more you got shot, eventually you died, and that was you out of the game. Dead simple. Tragedy did befall them because unfortunately I think there was an incident where a police officer shot someone, a child maybe, who had one of these guns that thought it was a real gun. And they had to go and take it and redevelop it into something that was a lot less gun looking, not making it black. I think they changed it to white, and then they did these big blue things as well that were similar. They had to be less gun like. You could also get a helmet that I knew nothing of. There was a helmet that you could wear that looked more like a Buck Rogers style helmet as well, that had an LED or something on top of it, or a bulb on top of it that would flash, and you could shoot the bulb up there. And you could, the more serious people expanded their set. They were pretty cool. They actually worked really well. I do remember them not being some sort of... there was a certain degree of accuracy required as well, where if you shot off to the side of someone, it wouldn't pick it up. But if you just shot their general person, it would pick it up. So I do remember thinking that they were actually pretty good at doing what you wanted them to do. They weren't cheap knockoffs that attempted to do the Laser Quest thing that was very popular at the time. I do remember going to Laser Quest back in the 80s and early 90s with some of my friends and loving it. And whenever we had these, it was, hey, let's go out and play these. Had you ever heard of laser tag from World of Wonders?
I think I have. I'm aware of it going on in the kind of way that I was aware of paintball parties going on and all this sort of thing. People going around, as you say, in darkened rooms, all suited up and shooting each other. But maybe a reflection of the difference in our ages. In 1986 to 2000, I was kind of, in my late 20s and had a young family and all the rest of it. So I just wasn't doing this kind of thing by that stage in my life when all this came out. And it sounds like it had a short life anyway because of the incident you just described. And it all changed. I don't know what happened to paintball and laser parties like this.
Call of Duty.
Can you still do it? Or
yeah, there are some places
right?
that have paintball, and they're more for office getaways and things like that.
Yeah.
Or episodes of Community. But Call of Duty came online and everyone started getting PlayStations, and they were able to do it there from the comfort of their own home, and they could eat pizza whilst they're doing it and not run around.
Yes, no moving.
Yeah. But I think that's why I was much more athletic as a child, because we were doing things like this, diving through bushes and having fun in our gardens that we had gardens. Even that's something that people don't have anymore. Now you have a small yard out the back of where you might live, and playing with something like this there isn't really productive. You can't really shoot people who are hiding around the back of the oil tank too many times before it becomes quite boring. And then if you go and try it in the local woods, you have to contend with the local paedophiles. Well, I suppose that'll keep you on the run as well. That's where
and the grizzly bears.
The grizzly bears. Where in Wales?
Well,
Really?
not in Wales, no, but in some places in the world. So I never actually used one of these. When you fire it towards the target, which has got this red light on them, do you actually see the line of the laser when you press the trigger?
No, you don't.
No,
but
right.
you can see, and on a dark night, I do remember whenever you pressed the trigger, you could see the end of the gun glowing red.
Okay.
Vaguely, unless I'm making that up, and it was just something some fond memory that I had. But the wee target as well had some dancing lights on it that would go back and forth, so you could see people whenever they were running around in the woods, and that way you could shoot the people and not the paedophiles.
Right. Yes, unless the paedophiles also had the gear.
Well, yes, they could attract children. Oh, jeez.
Yes, let's not go there.
Yeah, no. But there was a speaker as well, so you couldn't cover it up, because the dancing lights, if you saw them disappear suddenly whenever you were shooting at someone, it was like, you're covering that with your hand.
Right.
But you'd be able to tell whenever you shot them, so you knew whether or not the person was hit, because they couldn't say, "Oh no, you didn't get me." This thing would tell on you and go, "No, that's you. You're dead," or something.
And
like
you could cover up the red dome target, couldn't you? Or put it in your pocket.
Could, but then you couldn't see the lights.
Exactly. No one will hit you.
But where would the fun be in that, Ted? You cheat. Go and sit at the side. Let the kids play and enjoy themselves instead of you running around cheating.
I saw a film when they were doing this recently. Well, not a few months ago. What film was that? It was a really obscure film. Do you remember that? They were running around doing this, trying to shoot each other. What was it? It was a sci-fi film.
With lasers or just any old film?
Yeah, with lasers. I'll try and remember. And it was something that I watched relatively recently anyway.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
probably one of the ones that I picked for Projector Room that you gave
Probably.
nil point to.
Yes, probably.
But yeah, folks, hopefully you got to play with laser tag as well whilst you were on your Vectars, zooming around, blasting people. They were good fun. I liked them.
Yeah, good for you.
Don't know whatever happened to. I don't know if we had a set or my friend had a set. I don't think we had it. I do remember playing with it a bit less than I would have had we had a set.
Right.
Yeah. All right, going into the bargain basement. The first one is Ted's.
PDKUAI. If you trust a company called that, then you can get a 2 times 20 watt Qi wireless charging pad, which I was looking for this week because this phone I've got now lends itself to having pads everywhere because the battery's crap. and so I'm going to put it on a Qi charger over. But it was quite hard to find one that's got that much power in it. 20 watt. I mean, you can get them. Xiaomi are selling 50 watt ones now, but one of them is head to Amazon and try and find one, and they're all 10 watt ones. This has got two 20 watt. Even if you've got two devices on at the same time, you still get 20 on each one. I thought that looked quite good. 17 quid instead of £26, so that makes it a bargain basement, and a company I've never heard of, so it's a bit of a gamble.
Wow, okay. Just one of the recommended products, looking at that listing, was saying, would you like a 200 watt fast charge 4-in-1 USB? Wow, blimey. ISDT powered 200 USB charger, 200 watt phone charger with 4 USBs plus 1 wireless charging. Yeah, no, very good. Yeah,
that looks so much like, on reflection of this device I've just linked to, the back of it looks exactly like the Samsung one I've got. I wonder if it's a rip-off of a Samsung one.
Probably is. Yeah, can't see in the same mould. No, they're very nice looking. £17.67 for two. That's pretty good. His and hers.
Indeed.
Be on the one side of the bed though. Oh no, sorry, it would be in between two single beds. Ah, yes.
Yeah, keep away from each other. That's the idea.
like they did in the 60s. Yeah. All right. Next up is if you trust the the brand Getahu, Getihu. You can get a power bank, which is a portable charger, 3 amp high speed, 10,000 milliamp hour LED display, USB Type C tri output. This is a tri output. It looks like there's only got 2. Or maybe there's one on the bottom as well. Okay. This is a backup battery, because backup batteries are cool. Doesn't ship to Northern Ireland for those of you. Oh, hang on a second. It says it is. Delivers to... Oh, I've got my VPN on. It says I'm in London. Okay. It's a portable power bank. It's down from 20 quid to £17, and it's compatible with most new devices. And it just looks like a really nice one, with a screen that tells you how much percentage is left.
We like those.
Yeah, and it's got USB Type C in, so you can just charge it that way, and it delivers decent charge out. Does it say what charging? I'm just scrolling down to see what the charging out was. Output is 5 volts, 3 amps max.
That's all right.
It is, and with a flashlight as well, as all power banks should have. Cool.
Yes. I've got a page of Samsung and what WD and SanDisk deals on storage. I didn't want to pick any particular one out because they've all got loads of money off. Micro SD cards you're always after because you've got all these devices all over the place that need them, and apparently they only last a year. But also, there's the extreme 1 terabyte SSD in there in the mix of all this, and the 2 terabyte one with money off, like 40 to 50% off some of them. So the link is just to a page of loads of memory cards and SSDs and stuff, which seem to be on sale this week.
Ooh, 20% off the Samsung T7 Shield, the portable SSD. That's nice.
Oh, yeah.
It's £117 down to £94.
Mm-hmm. Is there a 1 terabyte SSD, micro SD card? Yeah, there is. 114 quid. I think that was the same as last week. But I don't need it anymore.
No. Who does? The Asus touchscreen Chromebook. Oh, I tweeted this one out because it looks like a pretty fancy deal. It's £500 down to £299. This is the Chromebook Flip, the C433TA. It's a 14-inch full HD laptop which has the Core i5 inside of it with an 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. It's eMMC, which is the big downfall, I would say, if you were to have any problem with it, but it's still reasonable enough for a portable laptop. I love this. It looks very much like my Chromebook, and it might even be, I can't remember, I've got the 434.
What did you say? Yeah, you have. What did you say that might be the problem with it?
The eMMC storage facility, which is 128 gigs. It's not as fast as NVMe. But it's a really nice Chromebook for £300.
£299.99.
Yeah.
So I've been offered 5 monthly payments of £60, which means that Amazon are on the make for a penny there.
Yeah. Who can blame them? No, I like this because if it looks like the same form factor as mine, for which I think the build quality is relatively good. Those hinges, I do think, will eventually go, but after years and years and years of use, probably not in your lifetime, but it's one thing to be concerned with.
Looks very nice.
£300, yeah, great deal.
Are you being offered £60 a month as well?
No, I'm not, because I currently have my tablet on the go in the electronics section.
Right, okay. All right. So, Xperia 5, we were talking about earlier, the Mark 4. This is the Mark 3, which has been reduced to £649, and also includes a DualShock 4 controller and mount, which was something I was looking for my Xperia 5 a while back and never got round to getting. Anyway, the controller and the mount to use it with the phone. Anyway, £649 reduced from £899, and to be honest, as we were saying earlier, if you're in for a Sony phone, you could save a lot of money not getting the latest greatest and just getting this one.
Yeah, this is a nice looking bundle. A bit strange that it's got the gaming mount as well. I think it's a bit niche for some people. I can't imagine too many people taking that out. But if that's what you want, you still get a cheap phone.
You could always
Cheaper
flog it.
phone.
How much is it worth?
I don't know.
£50?
Maybe. I suppose you get the controller as well. So you get a bit for the controller.
Yeah. So if you don't want it, then just flog it.
Why not?
Yeah.
The last one, or no, not the second last one, my last one, is the Trust Iris PC speaker.
Trust Iris.
ARYS.
I do not trust Iris.
This is a speaker for your computer or laptop, not for your television, mind you. This is a USB sound system that's got a little metallic grill. It's got illuminated volume controller on the right side, and it'll pep up the sound from your laptop, PC, or Macintosh. I thought it was quite fun because if you have a look down at some of I had a look at the reviews to see if they said it was good sound, and most of the reviews say that it is excellent sound. But there's one person in particular that has a really nice setup with LEDs and things like that, and one of those big ultra wide screens. It must be fairly large, 40 odd inches or something like that. Ultra wide curved screen with a nice gaming mouse and keyboard, might be Logitech or something like that. And then this 17-pound speaker in the mix as well. I just thought that actually looks really nice. It's an expensive setup with a cheap speaker in there, so obviously the speaker must be good enough for his ears or her ears or whoever owns that. There's another one as well that has it plugged into some kind of DAC as well, with a nice looking keyboard as well. So it must be a fairly decent speaker.
Unless they're being paid.
They could be, but I can't imagine it does look a bit more amateur-y than the professional shots that you might tend to see. But no, it looks like a decent little speaker for laptop or desktop computer. Nice.
Indeed, very good. And the last one, the proper last one, is the AKG K712 Pro open back studio reference headphones. £175 down from 228. These have been around for years now, and when I picked a set, I got the K701s instead, but I'm not really quite sure if these are much better, but I think that the whole AKG K700 series range are really nifty and neat, and if I was going to buy a pair of headphones, well, as long as you don't want, noise cancelling stuff and stuff, the thing about these 700 series AKGs is that they deliver you the sound absolutely flat, as reference headphones do, and I quite like that. None of this beefed up bass from Marshall headphones and all the rest of it, and Sony ones too. You can actually get it as it was supposed to be listened to, and I quite like that. But the downside is that they're not closed back, so no good for podcasting. And £35 a month for 5 months for me.
I'm getting that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, very very nice indeed. If I didn't have a pair of K701s, I might be in for this.
But you're not going to.
No.
Good man. All right. Well, that brings us over 2 hours. So there you go. We will be back with you next week when I'm guessing the weather, you'll be excited to hear, will not be as good as it is today because the sun's still splitting the skies. It's still there. And we hope you all have a wonderful week. You can get in touch with us by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can find me on Twitter as well at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I also have my .com too, garethmiles.com. Ted, where can they find you?
tedsalmon.com. That's where I hang out. That's where I live and bide. And you can get all the links to all our audio podcasts and all our MeWe groups and everything else from there, tedsalmon.com. And if you want to buy me a coffee, that is always welcome. You can do that at paypal.me/tedsalmon.
Groovy. And we'll talk to you all next week. Have a lovely week and take care.
Goodbye.